Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kirsten Foss, and I'm the host of Spa Business Mastery. I'm so glad you are here joining us. So today's conversation includes a really smart businesswoman, who I consider a really smart businesswoman in the spa industry. She's from Ontario, Canada, and this year with COVID has been a real difficult one for Ontario spas because they've probably been shut more than they have been open. So today's guest is Meaghan Tenbergen. And Meaghan, you actually just did a slight rebrand with your business. You used to be the Skin Studio Spa. What did you change it to?
Skin Studio Beauty Company.
Nice. I like it. A little bit more encompassing. And, you know, quite frankly, I've known you for, oh gosh, at least 5 or 6 years now. And your business has really morphed over the years. So it totally made sense to me when you came out with a slight rebrand. To what it was, because yeah, you've grown up and you're just a little bit different, a little bit more polished, definitely more clear about who you serve and what you guys are experts at. So welcome. I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So the topic today is about spa owner resiliency, because quite frankly, in this industry, it can be a real up and down. Emotionally, financially, leadership wise. And I just think it's just part of the game of entrepreneurship as a spa owner, that we will go through really difficult times. And the difference that I see in this industry when we go through difficult times, and we've just gone through a doozy this past year, is how owners respond to really crappy stuff in their business. So I wanted to talk to you because you've been through a real year, and yet you're still trucking, and your business is still technically generating revenues. So tell me a little bit about your business and kind of who you serve, and just kind of frame up for our listeners a little bit about you and your company.
Yeah, for sure. So we will soon be celebrating 7 years in business. I started out just really wanting to focus on skincare. All the other spas and salons I had worked at, I had done a lot of the small services like waxing and manicures and pedicures, and it just wasn't speaking to my soul. It wasn't why I got into this industry. Skincare as a acne sufferer was my passion from the very beginning, and no matter how hard I tried, there just wasn't those opportunities for me to really pursue and specialize at that time. So
like as an employee, you mean?
Yeah, so I just decided to venture out on my own, and kind of decided I wasn't going to be doing manicures and pedicures at all anymore, which at the time everyone thought I was crazy because that's like the bread and butter for so many spas. I think now more and more places are niching out, which is great. But even just 7 years ago, people were like, "You're nuts! How are you going to pay the bills?"
Like, you're going to get rid of manicures? Like, I mean, I still get DMs from spas. Like, I heard that you actually at one point dropped manicures from your business. How did you do that?
Yeah. And it's so funny because whenever I interview estheticians now, I'm like, we don't do manicures and pedicures here. Like, is that okay with you? And they're like, yes. So
yes, yes, and yes.
How many of us hate doing them, but we do them because we've had to for so many years. But it's been a blessing for sure. My bread and butter when I started was Brazilians and brows. That was sort of what I was really good at when I worked at the salon. So, because I did work at a salon and spa for many years prior to, and so that was kind of my bread and butter. And then I worked actually with you in those early years to transition those clients into skincare clients. So yes, I've known Kirsten for many, many years. But yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And then over the past 7 years, I've become a mom, and Kirsten
You've got two little boys.
Little boys.
For those of you that have boys, you sure know how busy that is.
Two busy little boys. So yeah, I worked with Kirsten through that transition as well, becoming a mom. And now I feel like that has become a huge part of my identity in my business as well. And I find that tends to happen, like we attract like people. And so new moms, expecting moms, women who, my fellow 30 somethings have really become my
Your target,
clients.
they're your
Yeah.
ideal clients. And you are that client. That's the beauty of how you kind of got there, is that you started really understanding like what you wanted as a consumer. Like, because you are a professional, like you're an entrepreneur, so you have that aspect of those 30 somethings. You're also a mom and a working mom, so, and you have a lifestyle, and personal values that, my business should fit my family, not the other way around. And I see in your social media constantly you espouse that message over and over and over about, it's not just about work-life balance and moms and working, and you just go deeper into those kinds of posts. And I can see why people feel so connected, why consumers feel connected to you, because you're speaking to them.
Yeah, you want to find somebody that you can relate to, right? And thinking back now, it's so easy. It was so easy for me, at 25 prior to having kids, to say like, I know you're a busy mom, but da 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 da. But like now I'm like, gee, like I had no idea. I had no idea what it was like. So now you can really relate. And when women are like, this is happening and this is happening and I don't have time for that, I'm like, I get it. Trust me. I've been there, done that. And that was what really inspired me. After having my first son, about a year after, my acne got out of control again. So when I came off birth control, I had a huge purge. I had difficulty conceiving my first child. And then about a year after he was born, when I stopped breastfeeding, my skin started to flare up again. And that was when I really dove into more advanced acne training, because I was in a place where I was like, I have the skin knowledge, I know what to do, I have all access to all these great products and treatments. What am I missing?
Mhm.
Um, and so I really started to dive into more acne focused education, and figure out the fuller picture about all the different things that can contribute to acne, and how many misconceptions there are, or just like, marketing that's trying to, I shouldn't say trying to trick us, but they put, non-comedogenic or oil free or whatever on their products, and it's confusing, incredibly confusing for consumers. But it's just as confusing for us as professionals sometimes, because we trust our product lines, we trust our brands, especially as professional brands, to market accordingly. And what I found was, even with some of the professional brands, they're marketing something as an acne product when it's really not. It shouldn't be. So once I started looking beyond the marketing and looking solely at ingredient decks, and becoming a really good detective for what is appropriate and what's not appropriate for acne prone skin, then it kind of just really grew from there. I started, I brought in some private label products to fill in gaps where I couldn't, um, you know, find what I wanted in within the product lines that I was using. I brought in a completely different makeup line, and sort of started going a different route. I started, well, this was when I was still working with you too. I started cutting out services that didn't really fit with where I wanted to go with my business anymore. So yeah, I mean, I've totally been in my clients' shoes. I get where they're coming from. I did the work for them, and that's kind of how I approach it now. Like, been there, done that. Trust me, I know you don't want to go through this struggle alone. I've done the homework. I'm
Lived it.
living proof that it works, that I know what I'm talking about.
Well, and you literally were your own guinea pig, right? So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it's just, making those connections with people. I think you can't beat authenticity
no.
in any business,
and
right?
and and it can't even be manufactured. That's
No.
the beauty of what we have in this industry. If you are able to tap into your thing, like what you really love to do and how you want to do it in the spa industry, you know, it's possible. It's absolutely possible. And what I love about your story is that, you know, you were not just taking, you know, the skincare marketing, like you weren't stopping there. Whereas I think a lot of times for spa owners who aren't going into a niche, it's really easy and safe to kind of stay with the marketing lingo of products and not have to kind of do that really deep dive of education into advanced skin analysis and all that and advanced ingredient tech. So I definitely agree with you. Like that's really where, when you started experiencing more success in your business for acne, it's because you were willing to go deeper and learn more about it rather than just kind of taking the marketing at face value.
Yeah. And like that's kind of how I approach everything. I was thinking about before we hopped on this call, like it's, to me, it's always about like taking an idea or, you know, whatever it is in your business and figuring out how can I up level this? How can I do it better or differently than everyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm just the same as the girl down the street, then to me, what's the point?
Well, and it becomes, and you know, it's like it ends up being like an echo chamber about spa services. You know, it's, you know, in my kind of world where I'm at in the coaching industry and kind of marketing agency industry, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's take this story up to kind of pre-pandemic. Where was business going? What were you noticing about sales and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So pre-pandemic, I had just had my second son and I had just hired my, I think, sixth or seventh staff member, Stephanie. So she was my newest esthetician at the time. She started a month before I had my second son. So I really had to cram her training into that last month, and then try and build her business. So that was kind of what I was working towards. I had three other estheticians who were, you know, busy, who were doing very well. And I was trying to build up my fourth esthetician to be busy as well. I then started expanding my hours, we're now open 7 days a week. I have a girl who was working full time with me. She left to work in the nutrition industry and then came back. So she's now back with me part time as well.
I just want to pause you just for a second, because that decision to open 7 days a week, you and I had actually had a conversation about that, because you were actually thinking that you needed to move locations, I believe.
Yes.
And I'm like, whoa, back up the bus. How many hours a day are you working? How many days a week are you open? You're like, oh, we're closed Sunday, Mondays or something like that. And you had a ton of hours still open. And it was just like, oh, right, I have still some availability.
Yeah.
So that's how that got there to be coming 7 days a week.
Yeah. And, you know, in all fairness, it's been a little bit difficult to staff at times being open Sundays just because it's so unusual in our industry. But I've been very fortunate with the girls that I had. Like when Stephanie started with me, she had been working at a spa in Toronto and she was already working Sundays there. So when she came here, it was a natural transition. And then when Danielle came back part-time, back from her nutrition stuff, she was like, honestly, I'm just kind of looking for like a weekend thing. She was kind of like trying to find, you know, where she belonged. And, you know, and I think that speaks volumes too when somebody leaves and then comes back. Absolutely. You know, that the kind of work environment that we have here, I really encourage my girls to find their niche and find their passion within the business as well. It's not just all about me. Each of them, especially since the pandemic, have started to niche themselves out as well within the business.
So like, just to clarify, so pre-pandemic wins were you were able to expand your hours, you had hired a new esthetician, and got some training. So any other things that were happening that you were feeling like was a win, kind of the 6 months to a year pre-pandemic? Did you guys do any more training? Were your sales going up? That's just kind of what I'm looking for in terms of what did you notice of the wins pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I think I was just so focused on growth. I was so focused on getting busier, getting my girls busy, getting their retail sales up, that I wasn't even really focusing on our wins necessarily. We were growing every month, little by little, but and I am always trying to, do more educational stuff, do courses with them and stuff. I think it's so important to keep that up.
I think too, it's important to like, I think you don't, because you are in it all the time, but you do keep up with your sales numbers and your metrics and all that kind of stuff. So that's just a normal thing for you to kind of be tracking anyways.
Yeah. Sometimes it's growth month over month for sure. But I felt like I was just like always, I was still in hustle mode. And just coming off having a baby too. It was just
baby and throw that into the mix. Let's have another baby and throw that into the mix. That's what, there's sometimes when I would watch you from afar and go, whoa, wow, this girl is like got some energy. Mind you, I had already, like by that time, my kids were teenagers and it kind of wore me down. So with little ones going, where does she get that energy?
Yeah, I joke with my husband often that like we are professionals at putting too much on our plates. So,
so when the pandemic hit, I was what are some of the key issues that you came across? I mean, there's the obvious ones of like, we're not getting any income coming in.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel? Like what, you were in hustle mode, growing month over month, you're very pregnant, your eyes on the prize, just focus on what's happening next. How did you feel and when you realized what was actually happening with the pandemic?
I was devastated. I was absolutely gutted. And I think, everyone can relate to that. It was just an unbelievable feeling. It's like, how do I grasp this idea? I remember having this conversation with my in-laws the week before they shut us down. And I remember being on the brink of tears and being like, what if they shut my business down? What am I going to do? Like, and my father-in-law's like, they can't do that. And well, here we are. It was just so unfathomable at the time. And I just remember being gutted. And then with that came a pressure prior to being shut down, a pressure from society to close before we got shut down. We saw that happening everywhere. Everyone was voluntarily shutting down for 2 weeks.
Right.
And all of a sudden I was in touch with public health every single day. And they kept reassuring me that like, you're fine to stay open. You guys are doing everything right. We know you guys are clean. You have a like perfect history with public health. You guys are fine to stay open. But we started getting messages from people, not even clients, from random people saying like, I can't believe that you won't close and all this stuff. And I had to defend my decision to stay open. And some of my staff were getting threatening messages. Like it was a weird time.
Yeah.
And I look back now and it's so funny to me because now people are like, open up the salons.
I know. It's just the whole year's been topsy-turvy in terms of public outcry. Like
I know.
It's just so one end to the other and everything in between. Like
yeah. So anyway, that was the whole thing. And then schools and daycares got shut down. And I remember one of my staff has her son is the same age as my oldest son. So they were both in preschool, still in daycare at the time. And I remember she literally drove her son to daycare that morning. And our government said, I'm not sure if this was federal or provincial at the time, but our government had said daycare basically went on at like 8 or 8:30 in the morning and said daycares and schools are closing effective immediately.
Oh, wow.
So she literally drove her son to daycare in the morning and was met at the door, and they said, sorry, we can't open today. And she was supposed to work that day. She had a full day of clients, and she called me crying hysterically. And I said, it's okay. I had already started to mentally prepare myself for this. And so I'm like, it's okay. Everyone's in the same boat right now, Amanda. Don't stress. We'll figure this out. It's okay. People are going to be understanding. Um, you know, we'll make sure we'll figure it out. And so I kind of had to be this like reassuring voice for my staff, who were going through all of these different nuances as well. And I remember hanging up the phone with her and just crying.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, oh, wow, I have to be the pillar of strength for these people too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that just adds more pressure.
Yeah.
And the fact that, during that time and even during now, because you guys are closed, and we're recording at kind of mid-May here, 2021. It's the overarching issue is that you have no control.
Mm-hmm.
So it happened to be a pandemic, and it happened. A pandemic lasts a really long time. So unfortunately, we're feeling the effects of it long term. But anything can happen in our lives to just throw an absolute wrench, hard left turn, and we're left literally kind of trying to figure out like, well, now what? You literally, like, your brain almost doesn't work because you can't move forward in how you were thinking.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that pressure is absolutely immense. And then I would imagine fear. How long is this going to go on for? How long can I keep my business open?
I really have close relationships with my staff, and felt I had an obligation to them to, it's my responsibility to make sure that they have jobs so they can support their families. And so I had that weight on my shoulders as well. And that feeling of just like, yeah, it hurt that I had no control over this situation, that, I wanted so badly to keep them all employed. And I was like, my hands are tied. And that was, and then I'm sure we all saw the same thing, right? Clients started calling and canceling before we even closed. And so that was scary, because all of a sudden our schedules went from 10 clients a day to 1. And these girls were not getting enough hours to pay the bills. And I started having these conversations with them of, perhaps it's time that, and this all happened very quickly over the course of a week or two, but it was like each day was a new sort of challenge, a new conversation. And, maybe it's time we think about laying you off, because it's probably not worth it for you to stay here anymore.
So trying to all of a sudden trying to strategize how to keep your team members, get some income coming in. And this, like I said, this had to do with pandemic, but this could be a situation where, somebody's spouse passes away, or a child, or something, they get really sick. So this is why I wanted to have this conversation. Like, your story happens to be about the pandemic, but it's how you reacted to the gong show as it kept coming is what allowed you to kind of keep moving forward and not kind of get stuck in that little kind of, we're allowed to have a pity party, totally allowed to have a pity party. You're just not allowed to stay there.
And there were so many other things that happened in my personal life and in my business life last year too, that it was compounding with the pandemic. And I'm sure lots of people experienced that, but yeah.
So was there, so now your business has been shut down. Was there a point where you're like, I don't think I need to look at doing something differently in my business to keep moving forward, because you didn't know when you would be reopened, and there was so much uncertainty about closures and opening again and closures again. So was there like a moment where you remember something like, I got to do this, it's time to do that?
Oh, like immediately. Yeah, immediately. Because even before we closed, I had Danielle, who works part-time for me. I said, I said, you're only part-time. Stay home for this week. We don't have enough clients because they were all canceling. But stay home for this week, but I need you to do this for me. We use MindBody, go into MindBody and set up all our products for online sales. And she spent every day that week setting up our online store. I voluntarily closed on the Friday just to like have a day to figure out what we were going to do going forward. And by the time Friday came, at the end of the week, like this was on like, I think Monday, I said to her, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And so she spent every day this week. By the time Friday came, I knew we got to close. And I think it was like the next Wednesday or something. Like it was like maybe a week later they shut us down anyway. But the societal pressure was too much. And so by Saturday, we had our online store up.
Nice.
So that
So
was.
So how did you do that shift? Because I know that you've done okay with your online sales. Like, I mean, it's not like the same as your, having the treatments, the services, but you did okay.
Yeah.
What did you do in terms of like, once the shop was up, what did you do from there?
I sent out email newsletters. I posted about it on our social media constantly. And it was pretty amateur. Like, I don't know if anybody's used the MindBody online store. It's not super user friendly
No.
at all. So it was pretty amateur, but it was what we could do at the time, and pull it together quickly. And since then, we've shifted to Shopify, but yeah, it was. I just started talking about it constantly, marketing it, posting on social media every day, sending out. I kept doing my like weekly or biweekly newsletters, talking about different things, and then I started seeing people doing facial kits, so people could do facials at home. And I was chatting a bit with my product rep about it, and she was like, "You should do this." And like I was saying earlier, it's just my personality. I don't do anything that other people are doing. I don't like to be the same. So I was like, how can I do this differently? How can I do it? How can I improve upon it? And I don't mean for that to sound like I'm
No. That's
better than anyone else, but
no, that's not how anybody should take that. How our listeners should take that is, okay, peeps, look at an idea
yeah,
and then judge it, tweak
make
it,
it your own.
make it your own.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's again, we just come up with another echo chamber of the same services, right?
Yeah.
So tweak it, make it your own.
Yeah. So I saw a lot of people doing these little kits, and they would have like pre-selected products, and some of them were, they have this one for aging and this one for acne or whatever it was. But our facials in-house are 100% customized. We don't have set protocols. We customize every single step of our facials. So I wanted that reflected in our kits.
That makes sense.
So so I started saying, if you're an existing client of ours, let me know. And we already know your skin. We have notes in your file. I can make a customized facial for you. And we have great little, I actually have one here, these great little samples that show what the product is, and I'll talk a little bit about it. And then it has the sample sachet. So it was a great sales tool as well, because it told the client what the product is and what it's for. So even our clients who already were using some of the products, it gave them an opportunity to try some new things. So it was a really awesome sales tool as well to use those samples the way they've done them. It was great for us. And then I kind of thought, figured out some extra things I could throw in the box to make it a nice complete kit. And then I started thinking about price. Okay, I'm seeing other people charging $30 for these. Like, I want to make it worth my time and my effort, especially if I'm taking the time to customize these. So I
Well,
started.
and also those kits also need to reflect what, like the facial that they had before. So it doesn't make sense to sell a $30 kit if what do your facials go for?
Right. Yeah. Like our facials are
Okay.
$125.
So yeah, so you're almost like giving it to them like at cost,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If your costs are 10% or a little bit lower. So yeah, that just doesn't make sense in terms of pricing.
Exactly. Exactly. So I wanted them to get that experience, that, as close to it that they could get at home. So yeah, I started pricing our boxes at $75, and then I got some like free gift with purchases as part of our program with our product line. And so I threw a couple, zhuzhed
Little
it up a
extra
little bit
bits.
more. And then I was like, oh, this is our deluxe box. And it hardly cost me more, but I sold them for $100 instead of $75. People were like losing their brains. I want a deluxe box. And it was crazy. I did a launch. I planned it ahead of time, and I said, I'm launching these boxes on this day at this time. You got to get online and order your box, if you want one. And I think originally I made like 24 boxes. I ordered enough stuff to do 24 boxes, hoping that people would buy them. And they sold out in like 24 hours.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
then, yeah, so I was like, okay.
I'm
So
on to
I did them. Yeah, I was like, so I started putting them together, and I was like, asked my husband, I was like almost in tears. I was like, what a stupid idea to customize these. It's taking me like 45 minutes to put these stupid boxes together.
It seemed like a really great idea, but I didn't quite think out because
I'm one woman. So no, I think I actually timed myself, and it took me like 30 minutes beginning to end to like customize the box, make the shipping label, which I was doing manually at the time. Like, yeah, it was an insane amount of time. So 24 boxes times 30 minutes and one woman, and I had my two kids at home because everything was closed. So I was working.
sometimes you learn, and sometimes you learn real hard.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't. So then I was working till like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm like, well, those went great. And somebody had said, are you going to offer these again for Mother's Day? Because I launched these in April.
Okay.
And I went, oh, that's a good idea. So I'm like, well, they went great the first time. I'm going to double my order. So this is why I say sometimes I don't. But I doubled my order, and
For
they sold
custom.
out in like 4 hours. So I had to do 48 boxes. And then on top of that, because people were buying them for gifts, I had to then reach out to those people and say, well, what's your mom's skin type like? And can you send me a picture of your mom? So
That seems way too labor intensive.
yeah, it was. But it's done so well for us. And I still keep them in stock now as a regular item because people still order them. And then on top of that, on top of the box and the product itself, I didn't want to just type out instructions. I know a lot of people were doing that, and they made it really pretty, and I was like, it's just not resonating with me to just type out instructions. So I made a video, and I sat in my
Proud of you.
I sat in my kids' base, in the playroom. I sat on the floor. I have no idea how to edit video, by the way. I'm not tech savvy. So I did it in like iMovie. I Googled like how to use iMovie, and I had to do it in one solid take because I don't know how to edit video. So I did an hour long like guided facial,
Yeah.
and talked them through the whole thing. It did take me a few takes, but I did the whole thing in one solid thing. And it was great. And then it's funny because there was another woman in the spa industry who was doing like a virtual, she's been doing this for years, I guess, doing virtual facials, and she meets with them on Zoom and does the facial with them. And so I was curious, what's her virtual facial like? What's her kits like? So I signed up for her thing just out of curiosity to see if she knew something I didn't know, or she was doing something better that I wasn't doing. But when I listened to it, I was like, I totally appreciate, that you can meet with them on Zoom and have that social interaction with them. And for sure, I think in some circumstances that's better. But then there's also, I know a lot of women who did theirs at like 10 o'clock at night after their kids were in bed. And so doing it over Zoom wouldn't have worked necessarily. And then I had my kids, so I couldn't do Zoom meetings with people during the day.
Right.
So it really came out of necessity that I did a pre-recorded video.
But I
And
think
I'm
that,
still using that.
in terms of like business strategy, from my perspective, doing a video like that is super smart, because there's a couple of things with video. There's more connection. They see you, they hear your voice, they feel more connected. The other thing is that, people learn differently. Some people, even though it's written out what you think is really clearly, some people have processing issues, and it just is confusing, and they miss stuff. So having that video kind of tutorial is another aspect. But the best part about it is it's scalable. You make it once and you include that link with every single kit. So that's the scalability part that I love hearing about with, e-commerce and virtual skin services, is that it's a scalable model more so than it is with having just offering services at the spa.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that. I love that. And there's so many over the past year, I've done way more online ordering. And I started using a hair care brand called Luss. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's for curly hair. And I struggle to find like the right shampoo and conditioner, enough condition for this curly mess, because it's usually but what I really loved about them, and I've actually kept a lot of their emails in my swipe file for inspo, is that they had like video, so I purchased the kit, and they had little video tutorials on YouTube that I could go and click and watch a little tutorial, read more, listen more about the product, and also how other people are doing their hair, like using that product. So I love that you incorporated that aspect into it in your stuff.
Yeah.
So what else did I want to ask you? So those, in terms of the e-commerce, that's been kind of running along, tickety boo. So do you find that as soon as you're closed, your e-commerce goes up, or do you find that it's over the past year, you're starting to see more consistent numbers in your e-commerce versus in-house purchases?
My hope now is that we'll start to see the e-commerce go up consistently. When we were open, because I was really just marketing it to my clients, our e-commerce was pretty low when we were open, because they would just pick up their products when they were here for their appointments. My hope now is to scale that e-commerce and market it outside of our existing clientele.
Perfect. Awesome. So now that you have, we're a year into the pandemic, over a year now. You guys are still closed until what, mid-May?
Mid-May, there's May 20th, there's rumors of them extending it again, because that's right before May 2 weekend.
I know. It's I was just wondering if, what it's looking like for you in terms of, I guess it's still a little bit early. It's about another kind of 14 days out before you guys can even have any kind of word on that. Mm-hmm. So, the topic today was about spa owner resiliency, and in particular about kind of how you played your COVID cards. Mm-hmm. Because, I wanted to show an example of what a spa owner does when they're hit with, like, we can't do treatments, we can't do in-house treatments, mm-hmm. because the industry's been so dependent on hands-on treatments. And the problem with it is that it's not scalable, and it's exhausting, and it's really hard to have a long-term career giving services in the spa industry. So do you, like, after a year of being in COVID, the ups and the downs, all the learning, do you have anything, like, do you have a new perspective about your business after COVID? Or actually, well, it's still in the middle of it, but do you have are you approaching it as any different way?
Probably. Say, like, we've all gone through so many changes, like, emotionally and mentally that I'm sure I'm a different person than I was a year ago, just like so many of us are. Um, but I would say it really solidified for me. Like I had mentioned earlier, I was really trying to grow my, you know, my estheticians and get them busier. But something I have always stressed in my business is the importance of retailing. And it's such a common conversation in our industry because so many of us suck at selling. And it was a conversation that I had many times with, at the time, was my busiest esthetician, because she was like cramming clients in. She was so in demand that she really had hit a ceiling and wanted to make more money. And I said, well, you can't see any more clients per day. You're already squeezing people in where you shouldn't be. You
That's
have to
yourself
sell
up.
more product. Yeah, you have, like, that's the only way for you to make more money, is to sell more product. And I kept having these conversations that, like, it's not me trying to push you to be a salesperson. It's, if you want to make more money, that's what you have to do. And I think I've actually had met with you about this individual as well. She wound up leaving partway through the pandemic in November. So, talk about resiliency. There was a lot of things that I was faced with last year, and that was one of them. She was my busiest, most in demand esthetician, and she left to go down the street and open her own business.
Burn, double
Um,
burn, ouch.
yeah. So that was hard, but it just kind of was like, I was trying to help her, and it just really solidified that, like, I kept trying to say to the girls, like, this whole experience has, if anything, has only solidified how important it is for you to sell product. Because if you don't have product sales, you have nothing right now. And I don't really talk, not, I have no ill feelings, but I don't really talk to this girl anymore. But I wonder, like, how's she doing? Because she
Well, because you cannot sustain a business on service alone. So
yeah,
you
so
might have to learn that the hard way, but as spa owners, we all learn that at some point, right?
yeah, and being a new business, she won't qualify for a lot of the things that other businesses may qualify for. So, I feel like that's a hard lesson to learn for sure, but that's what I've been preaching to for so long. And I know you do with your clients as well. Like, it's so important. And it's not just about sales, it's about
It's about education.
serving people.
And
Like,
it's really at the crux of it, it's about serving your clients and giving them great skincare outcomes. And for those of you that are, seasoned skin therapists, you all know that it's the home care, the consistent high level home care that gives the bulk of the outcome. The treatment is the icing on the cake. So
yeah.
I feel like I got a bit of a bee in my bonnet this year about K-spa peeps, like, let's flip this. More retail, less services, because it's more sustainable for your career. It actually, it actually pays the bills and gives profit. But more than anything, and I think sometimes estheticians get caught up on sales, selling. More than anything, it's about serving your client at the highest level that you can. If you're not offering them retail solutions, you are not serving what they're asking you for.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So, I do hope that our industry kind of woke up a bit. I think they did, just kind of listening and talking to other spa owners, but there's going to be many out there that are just stuck in their ways and are not able to have that resiliency piece, and just like, this is the way. And I've heard this from people, like talking in discovery calls with clients. They're just like, no, my clients won't do that. No, the people in my area don't want virtual services. And
Mindset.
I'm like, how do you know that? Like, but it's just, they're just being stubborn. They've got a block there. They don't want to do it for whatever reason. So I did hear though that the pandemic, in terms of e-commerce, accelerated e-commerce by 5 years.
Oh, I believe it.
So for our industry, we were already behind in e-commerce. So if for those spas that are not getting, starting to work strategic plan on their e-commerce, they're even farther behind. That's not to say you can't catch up, but it's like not being on social at this point. You kind of don't exist if you're not on social.
Yeah. I had on my to-do list for like 2 years prior to the pandemic, do an online store. And I never did it because
you didn't have to.
I didn't have to. Yeah. And then once I did, it's like, well, thank God.
Yeah. And, the e-commerce and, virtual or online skin coaching, those kinds of services give our industry, we're predominantly female in this industry. Most of us have children. It gives us the lifestyle that we want. It's like, we don't have to be in the treatment room as much. We can have more time with our children and our spouses and our families. And you don't need to be in the treatment room all the time. You can still give clients those great outcomes with a really strong home care plan, treatment, even a treatment plan, but it doesn't have to be like what we think it is.
Yeah. And that's what I'm working on right now. I definitely, my e-commerce store paid the bills for the first year. And now that I've shifted to Shopify and made it, bigger and better, that's my hope, is that it will be its own sustainable business that, like you say, will help give me the lifestyle that I want. Because I'm sure a lot of spa owners know, like, it's not as profitable as you think, and it takes a lot longer than you think. And I've spent 7 years paying my staff more than I pay myself, and it's kind of at the point where I'm like,
that's got to change.
My turn.
Yeah, I mean, you've been like pointing into the stick in terms of growth, and like, all right, I'd rather hire somebody and grow the business that way than take a paycheck for myself. But you're absolutely right. There has to be a point at some point. You need to be able to be profiting from this and having a business that suits your lifestyle, not the other way around. Not trying to squeeze a mom of 2 boys into full-time plus hours. So
yeah, I just can't do it anymore.
No.
I can't survive on that little amount of sleep anymore.
No. And I'll just give you the heads up, as you get older, you have less, you can deal with it less easy. Like, you have less, less patience, less bandwidth. So, we got to start working smarter, not harder.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah. Well, that was an awesome conversation. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on and have a chat about what it's been like for you to get through the pandemic. And there definitely is a light at the end of the tunnel. We're kind of starting to, I know in Ontario, you guys are still closed. It's a little harder to feel like there's a light, but vaccinations are rolling out, and there is a light at the tunnel for somewhat of normalcy again. But how you've chosen to cope with life and your business and the decisions you've made, I'm super proud of you. It's been a joy to watch you. It's been a joy to watch you develop your business in the past 7 years anyway. So
thank you. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for everyone to take is just to find the lemonade in whatever it is. And we didn't get it. I'll just quickly say, because we didn't get a chance to touch on this, but just so listeners know, I also had a car crash into my spa in the middle of the pandemic and destroyed my entire front of my spa. So that happened. And
And then you had problems with the insurance company. Like, it was just kind of like one thing after the other. That's why when I was thinking about who do I want to talk to about resiliency, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Meaghan.
Yeah, it was a doozy of a year. But that was like probably one of the other big things that happened, aside from like I had staff issues, and like I had a staff that was stealing from me, like took advantage of the fact that our inventory was like awry because of the car accident and was snatching product. So yeah, it was like one thing after another, but I just kept, you just gotta keep looking for the lemonade. And now I've redesigned. I was so devastated because I had just redesigned my spa the year before, and it was so pretty, and now it was destroyed. So I had to redesign it again. And at first I was like, I just want to put it back how I had it. It was so pretty. But then I was like, well, I guess I'll just make it better. And now people walk in and they're like, oh, I like, this is so nice. Like, I kind of like this better than it was before. And I'm like, yes, thank you for
Well,
saying
I think maybe that might be something to finish this conversation off, is that you never know where the lemonade is.
that.
You just don't know. Sometimes you have to go through really crappy, stressful times and, without any solution really in sight, or constantly feel like you're struggling. But you do, and we do this in our personal lives. We get to a point where we start seeing the bigger picture once we're through the pain. And that's all that this is all about, is like, where can we see what maybe wasn't actually even working that great,
Yeah.
but we were just still doing it because it was rote and it's always been what we do. So I really do believe that COVID, that was the gift of COVID, is it just shook us all up
Mhm.
and made us question, what do I really want to do? Like, I'm sure you had the thought, do I really still want to own this business?
I actually was one of the few that I feel like never
Oh,
wavered.
never question that.
No, I never wavered in that. I'm like, I love everything about this place. And I was just like, how the heck am I going to keep it?
Yeah,
That was my
yeah,
like
yeah. For me, it wasn't so much
driving.
about, I didn't want to get rid of my business, but I wanted to do it slightly differently. I was looking at, what do I want our lifestyle to be? Because, all of our kids are like 19 and older. There's only one left in the house. He's going to be gone soon. So, I started thinking about when my husband was home from work, working at home when the pandemic started. We were kind of like, hey, this is kind of nice. We're both working at home. Hey, if we can both work at home, why do we have to stay in this town? Why don't we, maybe we can buy a piece of property farther up island and start a little hobby farm, or you know what I mean? So it started us thinking about what would actually fill us up. So that is really the gift to the spa industry as well. It gave us leaders a chance to really question the trajectory of what we wanted to do, and we got to have a redo, and do it slightly differently.
Yeah. For sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Meaghan.
Thank you.
So appreciate it. And maybe we'll bring you back for a follow-up in a couple of years or something like that to see how your business has exploded.
I would love that.
Awesome.